We are stoked.
I'm a terrible sore loser. I don't follow the rules.
All the bearded guys seem to lie. Yeah.
There are rumors galore.
I am so up and down in my emotions right now.
Retain salad.
Okay. Where there is smoke, there is always fire, etc., etc., etc.
You don't do it.
Been there, done that.
And we'll get into it later.
They know crap about hockey.
Come on. Well, I laugh it off.
I have no issue.
Here's the thing, though. I have nothing to do.
I'm okay with this deal.
There was no other option.
So now you have nothing.
We already blew it.
Win now, win now.
It paid off.
I will eat my pants.
Hey guys, it's Two Guys in Hockey Talk. I'm Pavel the Cat, and
I'm Reverend Evan Reynolds, and I'm stoked for another pump show tonight with another great guest. But before we do that, how's your week on there, bud?
It's been good. It's been great. It's a little chilly here in the city of Edmonton. We got some more snow, but with my bevy, like you have one, I've been keeping warm. How about you, Evan?
Well, I've been not doing too bad, but I will say that I may have to go in IR. My back is sore from carrying this show, but I think I can make it through, man.
Ouch. Ouch.
Oh, man.
Okay. Well, clearly you can be one guy and just talk to yourself about hockey, right?
No, I want to give you a heads up, man. You got some great stuff you just posted on our site. Why don't we jump right in? We only have a few minutes here before we got to get to our guest. Why don't you go ahead and update us on some interesting news out of the United States Hockey League?
Sure. So the Omaha Lancers, the junior team down there with players between the ages of 16 and 21, they're kind of boycotting some of the games, or wanting to boycott, because it's coming out that reports that the team management team, like the higher ends, the president and whatnot, they're being investigated because they're not investing in the team. They're not even paying them for meal times. They're not paying for sticks, any supplies, which is something that's pretty common across all USH hockey teams, junior teams like that. So there's definitely some issues there. There's some questions about the coach. They've had a good start, which is surprising because, you want to have a good start with the coach, but now some of the other coaches are threatening to quit as well, some of the assistant coaches. So there's a whole slew of things happening right now. There's a lot of moving parts, and once we know more, we'll be reporting it on our page. So remember to like, subscribe, and share, and comment. But yeah, we're gonna get you more details on what's happening there.
Well,
any word on your end?
Yeah, no, and so that was news to me. I hadn't heard that. Great find, man. Great find, guys. And check out our Facebook page all throughout the week, not just our podcast. We got some great stuff that we try our best to keep updated from all the different sources that we have. You know what, man? Social media is a great place, but we like to keep you up. And especially with a lot of our guests, some of our guests, even like last week's guest, Patrick Conway, that's how we stay up on guys like, out of Russia and places like that. It gives us some of those tidbits. But hey, I just want to say, as much as the whole USHL thing is crazy, I don't want to start rumors. So I'm looking forward to Pavel to see what else that we're going to hear. Man, brand new arena, the old nostalgic Nassau Coliseum is no longer the home of the New York Islanders. Yeah. So TJ and the grumpy old man, as we've had previously as our guest, they got something new to talk about, and it's a spanklin' new arena. Did you like what you saw on TV?
I did. I think it was pretty impressive, although I think I'm the opposite of what grumpy old man would say about that arena. Also, their team is not doing very well right now, so it's a little tougher. But that being said, they needed a new arena. It was a good time coming, a long time coming. I was there at Nassau a few years back, just before the pandemic. I was visiting some family, and it's a beautiful, gorgeous arena. But it's time for a change. And I have the luxury of also being able to attend with a fan of the show, Jordan, a Calgary game at the Saddle Dome, because that they're going to change that stadium there because it's one of the older ones. But your thoughts?
Oh man, I absolutely loved it. It looked beautiful, but I gotta say, I kind of felt they didn't do justice by showing us more of it on national TV when it was being aired. So I would really like to kind of get to see more of the guts on it. So someone told me I should get online and be able to go in behind and see a little bit more of the arena. But whew.
Some fans were saying online on some of the threads on Reddit and on some of the New York Islanders sites that it's a little bit bare. It's good, but it's it's an improvement, but it's still a little bit empty. So kind of like Rogers Place here, where it's just brick and mortar and cement, and you want a little bit more pizzazz and a little bit more pop, so to speak. But we'll see what takes place.
All I know is, man, it was over $1 billion, and I sure hope there's a lot more that I just haven't read of that makes that thing worth $1 billion. Maybe it's just the area and the cost of supplies. I don't know.
So we'll have to ask next time, but we want to know from all of you, what is your favorite arena that you've attended or been at for an NHL game? Write below what you think. But for our next guest, we're wondering if he maybe attended T-Mobile Arena. What are your thoughts, Evan? Introduce him.
Well, guys, I'm excited to announce our guest. Here is Jake. He's a sportscaster from upstate New York. He co-hosts NFL's Downtown Rams podcast. He's the founder of it, as well as Downtown Sports Network. He's all around sports. He's a content creator, covers all sports and entertainment as a writer, podcaster, YouTuber. You can even catch him writing now on GameDay.com on hockey content. But most important to all of our Two Guys in Hockey Talk fans and followers, he's an avid fan of the Vegas Golden Knights. And tonight, we want to pick his brain in all things Vegas. Well, at least all things hockey in Vegas. Hey, welcome, Jake Ellenbogan.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you for coming to the show. Evan found you. He was stalking you on Twitter, I think it was, and then decided, hey, you should come on the show. And I'm just like, why not? The guy has a Mike Myers mask behind. He's a pretty normal dude, right? But just kidding. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Jake, and how you fell in love with the game of hockey.
Yeah, it's funny. I've always somewhat been interested in hockey from the time I was little. I picked my favorite team actually at the time, and I've actually backed on them because they traded away all my favorite players. It was the Red Wings, and everyone's like, why do you like the Red Wings? I was like, I like the Red Wings because when I was 4 and I was playing like NHL 99 with my dad, he would play, with the Colorado Avalanche for like no reason. He just like wanted to. I didn't know any of the players because I was little, so I was just like, I don't know, my favorite color is red. I like the Red Wings. And then, shortly after that, Steve Yzerman becomes my favorite player, and just because of the video game. And after that, I really start following like Pavel Datsyuk and Mark Zetterberg, Nick Cromwell, and even the prospects coming in. You have Gustav Nyquist, just all those guys, and just to like Tomas Tatar, another one. And I'm loving everything that's going on. And then I start to notice that they're like not going downhill, but they're getting older. And Mike Babcock all of a sudden is getting thrown under the bus, and I'm like, oh, I see where this is going. And Ken Holland just goes on this fire sale. Like Gustav Nyquist goes to Columbus. I don't remember where they sent Tatar. They trade Datsyuk, who then goes to Russia, and it's just like, you know what? Like, all I wanted was like the young guys to get a shot. I love the Dylan Larkin pick. Really was a fan of the direction they were going in. And I even understood trading away those guys. So it wasn't entirely they just trade away my favorite players, and that's why I wasn't a fan of them anymore. But it was like, for instance, Peter Mrazek, they're still starting Jimmy Howard over him. They send Mrazek out, 25-year-old goalie, to keep, some 30-plus-year-old. I was just so sick of like the way Ken Holland acted. So for whatever reason, I ended up liking Edmonton, who Ken Holland, of course, is there. So that's another story. I love Leon Draisaitl. I've loved him since he was drafted, and I like McDavid. I like Nugent Hopkins, Yamamoto there. So it's really been a player thing on that perspective. Vegas was my team as soon as I dropped the Red Wings. And so I picked Vegas before they even had players. And I like that's this thing I find funny. Everyone's like, you jumped on the bandwagon. I was like, you're right. but it wasn't like a bandwagon. Like I jumped on something that didn't have like there were no
Right.
players. I didn't even know the uniform. I just heard Golden Knights and I had a logo and I was like, okay, let's do that. That sounds like a lot of fun. And I was really trying to get myself back into hockey like full time. Like because I'm always like, this will be the year I watch every game. And then sure enough, I would just get so busy and wouldn't. And like I'll follow every game, but so at that point, that's why I became a Golden Knights fan. Obviously, since then, they've been very good. They're a lot of fun to watch. I still think this year they have a chance to win it all. They're very hurt. They're banged up to all hell. And, I mean, potentially they're going to get Jack Eichel back in February. So, I mean, things are on the up, I think. Plus, they've actually started to, turn in some wins. But you're probably wondering why, like, for instance, why am I wearing a Devils hoodie? Because I live in upstate New York, and one of my best friends, Kyle, kind of got me into liking the Devils by bringing me to a Vegas Golden Knights game at the Prudential Center. That was my first ever hockey game. That's when I fell in love with hockey. I played baseball for like 13 plus years. NFL, like football, has always been my favorite thing to watch. Like football is that's my thing. I've never played it. But I know it more than any other league. I could tell you every offensive line in the NFL, all that, right? Just obnoxious stats. But baseball was always up there. And I played it. So you would think, oh yeah, baseball's number 2. NHL has become the number 2 league for me that I watch. And I mean, I don't know the league like you guys probably, but playing, daily fantasy. I've won a few tournaments, actually, not like big tournaments, but I've won a few on FanDuel. And it's really got me accustomed to the league in a sense because, just off those dollar signs, I can almost kind of, also the eye test, but I can almost like assign, okay, this guy's top tier, this guy's not. And that's how I picked up really quickly, like this Jack Eichel guy in Buffalo that was just killing it. And we're not going to talk about Buffalo and how I feel about the way they manage everything over there. But, just doing that and I guess playing DFS and watching the games, going to my first live game in 2019, I think really changed everything. When I was like more than a casual fan when I liked the Red Wings and when I first started liking the Knights. But now I'm way more than a casual fan now, like where I follow everything that's going on. I have an alert on my phone anytime there's a goal of any team. So I literally get an alert every time there's a goal for any team in the NHL because I care. So that's
so
like my story on hockey.
So Jake, let me ask you a question. Actually, first, why don't you just update our fans and our followers? Not everyone may be familiar with a lot of the work you do in sports. For example, with the Downtown Rams and what you're doing as a YouTuber and content creator with all the entertainment around sports and stuff. But of course, writing on hockey now and on betting in hockey, which is, I mean, wow. Tell us a little bit what you're doing there before we get into some of our hockey questions.
Yeah. So, I started writing for the Game Day. Originally, I reached out about writing, full time or, just getting a writing job because I wanted to be freelance, which I'm doing right now. And I wanted to get an opportunity to write about the NFL, and I did. But there's a lot of people that are writing about the NFL at the Game Day, so it was kind of a first come first served basis, and opportunity opened up, and I now have like a weekly slot each week, a best bet section on Wednesday. It's pretty much a weekly column at this point, where I write about hockey, and I pick the 3 best bets, and it could be, a puck line, it could be money line, it could be, an over under, although I typically avoid that in hockey unless it's pretty obvious. But that's what I've been doing. And I mean, teams I've been riding with a ton. I like the Flames lately, like the way they're playing. I like the way, Vegas has been playing. Most of my teams actually, because I like 3 teams, including the Devils. All 3 of them have been relatively hot lately. I mean, Devils kind of came back down to earth a little bit, but those have been plays for mine, as well as, the Maple Leafs and, I mean, you look at Carolina and what they're doing. So, it's been a lot of fun. I really enjoy it, and I've been able to get into it. And I'm not like a super analytical person where I have a model for everything. but I do like analytics. I like numbers. And I think it's been cool to kind of put them together. Teams that, are averaging 4 goals per game, and then just like, researching their power play percentage and things like that. That way I have that stuff in my head, makes it really easy to write, so it's been a lot of fun, and that's what I've been doing. I mean, I'm also writing about the NBA and NFL, but I love every Wednesday being able to come out with a hockey piece.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. So, I mean, it seems like you're an eclectic collector of all information, and it's just you're making me feel dumb, and I'm already smarter than Evan, so I don't know how he feels. But so yeah, you've made some great strides. I mean, I love the New Jersey Devils. Some of the people on the show have been big fans, especially the 2000-2003 run when they won the Cup. I mean, Patrick Elias, very underrated guy, should be in the Hall of Fame. They have a lot of young guys. Ty Smith, Jack Hughes, who's injured right now. I like that team. I mean, I know, Subban's not looking so good with his slew foot, but, he's got to change that up. But,
yeah,
Dougie Hamilton has fit in pretty well.
Yeah.
But in terms of the Vegas Golden Knights, what is your perception of the whole team now that they have Jack Eichel? I mean, I know they're injured, and do they have that number one center now coming back in February, March-ish, because he's had his surgery, to make it over the hump and being able to finally get back to the Stanley Cup Finals like they did in their inaugural season?
I 100% do. And I don't think that they were going to make that trade unless they really felt like this was, above, get over the hump type of deal. When you look at, their trade to go out and get Robin Leonard, I thought that was really ballsy. I compared it to in the MLB when teams want to get like a power, 2 power aces for their rotation. Right. I was like, having Fleury and Leonard, that was nasty. Then Fleury kind of fell off a cliff. I mean, he didn't, that we knew of, but it looks like this year he's not quite playing up to par. And I don't love the way they got rid of him. I really don't. But, Brossoit actually has played pretty well, in relief. So I'm not complaining necessarily. I understand that's how it is. They've gotten some good, contribution out of the young guys. And I think that's been a cool thing about all these injuries. The silver lining is you win these games, but on top of it, you're finding ways to win with these young guys. You're getting them opportunity. It hurt to lose a guy like, Peyton Krebs, Alex Tuck, but you're getting Eichel. That is the next level piece that you needed, because Vegas is a collection of really, really good players. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that if you're doing like ratings in NHL video games, whatever, those guys aren't going to be in the 90s. They're going to be right below, Pacioretty, Stone, probably 87, 88, 86, March or so. Yeah. So going out and getting Eichel, he's up there in like the 95 range. Like when he's healthy, he's one of the faces of hockey. And so I love that they went out and made that trade. But I think that the great thing, like I was saying with the young guys, is that you're getting Paul Cotter in there. You're getting to see what Keegan Colasar can do. Guys like that just don't really get an opportunity. And I got to give a shout out to one of the best scrappers in hockey that no one talks about, no one owns in fantasy, Nick Waugh. When he is on that line with Jonathan Marchessault and Riley Smith, it is a sight to behold. And that's the thing is, it sucks that Marchessault has COVID or I'm not really sure what's going on there, but he's on the COVID list. It sucks because those three had one of the most fun lines that I've seen all year. Kind of up there with Jesper Bratt, Dawson Mercer, and Andreas Janssen with the Devils. Yeah. But, that's the cool thing, though, about these injuries. It sucks, but like they've been able to find these guys and find different combinations. And the way, and I don't know why his name is escaping me, Peter DeBoer, the way he likes to do that whole, I'm going to play the fourth line against the first line to start the game. He doesn't always do it, but he does it a lot. I think like it just kind of goes to show you he's not stuck in his own ways. He doesn't feel like he has to play this line, this line, this line. they just kind of experimented and figured out, okay, Waugh, Riley, and Marchessault works. And I just think that's been, the good thing about them is that, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And Vegas has not died. They're right now in the thick of the wild card. If the season ended today, they would be in the wild card. But they have, bigger things, moving forward. It's just they're waiting, and, Pacioretty will be back. And, Carlson is another guy. He broke his foot, I believe. He'll be back. But they'll be back at the later portion. So it's almost as if, I know this is kind of weird to say, but it's almost as if there's not a lot of tread on their tires for this season because they've been injured for so long. They're coming back towards the end of the year. That's going to be good for Vegas.
Well, bang on. And so one of the things, I actually think that line, by the way, you're talking about, is opportunistic, right? So they play the game, 100%. They play in the right spots. They're very good at the zone, making sure they work and communicate well. Chemistry's huge. Take one guy off the line. Like there's a lot of talk nowadays about, you only need a 2-player line, like a line of 3. But man, you find the groups of 3, and when you get that group of 3, the game is so much faster, so much more intelligent. There's so much a higher hockey IQ. But okay, well, let's talk about you. You got that mass behind you. I know Halloween's behind us, but for a while, people thought that Vegas was a bit of a Halloween show here because of all the players away. I mean, everyone thought that they're taking them for the division. Then this happens, and then, the show bringing in someone like Jack Eichel, which I will go on record and say I've been supportive. I was calling that actually during the summer. And I'll tell you why, because players want to go to Vegas, man. Like Pietrangelo, he wanted to go to Vegas. I don't know how they do the damn cap, but they do it time and time again. So you need an elite center. I mean, let's look at Tampa. You got Victor Hedman. You got Kucherov, who, we'll call him Kapsanov, who comes back just in time, to keep the cap down and then come back for the playoffs. Everyone jokes about. And then you have Vasilevsky, right? But
yes.
I've been saying this for a while. That's why they needed an elite center. They were not going to get a chance at a cup without an elite center. So here's the question to you. For all that you've watched and all you followed and all you read or write about them or something along this line, does Robin Lehner have the mental fortitude? And I don't mean that in a bad way because of his support for mental health. I just mean the goalie mental fortitude to be that elite goalie for them. Long as Brossoit can be an okay backup this season.
Well, yes. And, it's funny, from my days of watching the Red Wings, Brossoit reminds me of Jonas Gustafsson, who would be good enough to win you those, game 3s and playoffs where you're like, all right, well, we can't have him go back to back to back, So I think he's good enough to, keep things going. And I think Leonard can win you those game 1 and 2s. So I think they got a good 1-2 punch. Could it be better? Absolutely. But, I could tell you, Edmonton would kill for these 2 goalies. And if they had them right now, there would be trouble because I know you saw some good things the other day, out of the young guy whose name is totally Stuart Skinner. Thank you. Yeah. He had 43 saves or 45 saves or whatever. But he hasn't played all that well, that was his first really good game. And Mikko Koskinen is exhausted. You could just tell. I mean, they're throwing him out there pretty much every game. And Mike Smith, I mean, we don't know what Mike Smith will be when he gets back. So just looking at, Vegas, I just think they know what they have. Brossoit is a solid 2. If Leonard goes down, that's a different story. And that's probably a trade deadline acquisition waiting to happen. Exactly. But, as long as he stays healthy, I absolutely think he does. And, honestly, I like him more than Fleury because I think Fleury at times in the playoffs he'd get rattled. And I don't feel like Leonard does that. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Fleury was better. Like, Fleury at his best was one of the best goaltenders. I don't think anybody was really close when he was at his best in Vegas. That run he went on in the playoffs, their inaugural season was insane. But when it got to the Stanley Cup final, he got rattled. You can't be that the whole way. And that's the thing a lot of people forget is that Vegas team was not perfect. That Vegas team needed a lot to go well, and Fleury helped them.
Yeah.
If you had Fleury that first year with Vegas and you had this team, I don't think anybody comes close to beating them. But, I think Leonard's really good, and I think he's good enough, with what they have. But I don't think necessarily he'd be the guy to carry them, if that makes sense. So I think they had the pieces in place. I like the defensemen. Okay. Obviously, you talk about going out and getting Pietrangelo, which is huge. Shea Theodore, you're getting some great contributions out of Zach Whitecloud. Now he's back. He signed a 6-year deal. So they have guys that like Nick Hague's playing well. Alec Martinez, I mean, he pretty much broke his face, but he'll come back and he'll be, he'll be good. And then Brayden McNabb can, really lay the wood, which they need, because I do feel like part of me believes that they still miss Reeves. Like they miss that hard hitting, Reeves was just a jerk on the ice, but that's a good thing, And I feel like it's good that McNabb has stepped up and has been that for the defensive side.
So, Pavel, before you go into your next question here for him, I just want to speak on to last playoff. I know Pavel and I and some of our other guests, we had discussions around Leonard when he won that game in the playoffs. Would you have gone back to Leonard?
I 100% would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have. I mean, he was in the zone, yeah. I would have gone with him.
Yeah, I just want to say I agree with you, and that's why my co-host knows absolutely nothing about hockey. But I digress. Okay, buddy, you go ahead and ask the next question.
Could have been. I don't know. I don't see Vezina Trophy candidacy next to Robin Leonard. So when he gets one of those, then we could talk. But Marc-Andre Fleury has that. So just so you know, and he's got 3 Stanley Cups. So just saying.
2 on the bench. 2 on the bench.
That's true.
But no, I mean, yeah, to each his own. It could have been completely different. Yeah. I mean, playoffs are a completely different beast, as you know, and at any point things can change. It's hard. If you had Eichel last year in the playoffs, who knows? That being said, so Vegas has traded away quite a few of their players, of their prospects. And we're wondering, when they picked up Nolan Patrick, do you think that there's a chance for him to have somewhat of a resurgence of a career? Because people talked about, he was going to be potentially a number 1 draft pick, but of course it went to Nico Hirscher out in New Jersey that year. So, can Nolan Patrick find that touch again, maybe as a 3rd-line center for the Vegas Golden Knights, especially since he has that history with Kelly McCrimmon in the WHL days, right? Is there something that can spark that thing? Because I know that he had some issues, I think it was mentally with his brain. I don't know if it was concussions or something. He could not, or migraines, I think it was, if I recall. But what are your thoughts on Nolan Patrick in the lineup?
Well, I liked the pickup because, he did go 2nd overall, in that draft. I forget who Vegas got. I'm totally blanking, but I believe they traded him away.
Nick Suzuki.
Well.
So they traded away Nick Suzuki to Montreal. They traded away Branson or Eric Branson to Ottawa, and one other guy. I'm escaping me, but yeah, those are the 2 big ones.
Yeah, I like that they acquired him. This is another reason why I love Vegas, and this is before Vegas literally operates how the Rams operate, and that's my NFL team. Yeah. They're not afraid to make the move. And, I love that. And Nolan Patrick to me was like the Rams going out and trading for Dante Fowler, who was a pass rusher who they got in the 2018 season, and they just were missing that one pass rusher, 3rd overall pick. Oh. They were looking for that resurgent, can they bring him to the surface? Can they figure it out? He's 25 years old. Nolan Patrick's 23. I kind of see some similarities there. He helped them, and they got to the Super Bowl that year. They didn't win, but he was a big reason why they got there. Wow. He forced the game-sealing interception against the Saints to send them there. I think it's similar because you look at Nolan Patrick and yeah, this is another guy. He's asked to do a lot coming immediately out. I think a lot of these guys, some of these guys are ready. But I mean, how many times do you look at like a Sam Bennett now, like the way he's playing in Florida? That's resurgency.
Yeah.
He didn't start off his career that way. And not everyone is McDavid, not everyone's Draisaitl. And so when you're, a Sam Reinhart who was drafted before Draisaitl, that puts a lot of pressure on you. So, I'm not entirely surprised he hasn't quite lived up to that. If you go through the drafts and what have you, you can see there's a lot of guys that haven't. I would even say I like Hischier, but he's not a number. Like, I was just talking about this to my friend who got me into the Devils, and I'm like, it must absolutely suck being a Devils fan, knowing that like McDavid went number 1 overall, but the year you drafted number 1 overall, it was Hischier and it was Jack Hughes, guys that you like, but not like, not a transcendent number 1 McDavid type of guy. And then of course you have to watch like that 1 year where the Rangers get to go to the playoffs and then they get the number 1 overall pick and get Lafreniere. It's like, really? So, I do think in a nutshell, though, I think Nolan Patrick was the right move to make. And I would do that all day, every day. If I was a GM going out, it would probably be an issue, but I would go out because I do believe that these guys are asked to do so much early on in any sport. I would always give a draft pick, a really high draft pick, an opportunity to kind of redeem themselves.
It's interesting you say that because it is tough because Edmonton got a blame for a lot. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, incredible number 1 pick, but he was never going to be your number 1 centerman. Nail Yakupov, he was truly the most skilled and talented. Alex Galchenyuk was another guy that was up there. Ryan Murray went number 2. Some draft years, and so getting Jack Hughes, as much as they got 2 number 1s in Hischier and Hughes, it's tough. So you guys lost Peyton Krebs now in Vegas. Well, not specifically you, but the Vegas Golden Knights. It's always funny how we connect people to a team. It's your team. Yeah.
I was a Peyton Krebs stan, so that was sad.
Okay. So Peyton Krebs and Cody Glass, which I think that they realized that they might as well move on. So my question is like you mentioned earlier in the show about Marc-Andre, how he went, how they took him out and moved him on. People like Suzuki, that was mentioned earlier. Do you think eventually the way they're moving people out and moving people on to try to make a winner, because Foley, the owner, is all about just making a winner. You're in Vegas, baby. You're always gambling, right? and I think that they're setting a culture. However, do you think it's going to eventually come back to haunt them where players aren't going to feel that the team is going to be faithful to them if they sign there?
It's a great question. It's something I'm still wondering about the Rams. So, it's like, you can only chant, family on 3, 1, 2, 3 so many times before you're like, wait, this isn't. But what it comes down to is it's not like that. And you know why? Because love the sport, hate the business. In any league, this is how it is. And these guys are trained to know that. So some guys, not saying a lot, but there are some that'll be like, man, I'm not playing there. You hurt me. You hurt my feelings. I'm done. But like 98% of any league, guys are already conditioned to know this is how it is. And I wouldn't be, but they're these guys are pretty much like always aware that at any moment they could get traded or cut or whatever, and that's just the name of the game. So it's a great question. It's something I constantly ask, but I just I don't think that's the case just because that's just the way it is. That's their life cycle, So
yeah, sure.
That's how I would answer that. But it's definitely a great question. Something I've been asking for years. I'm like, at some point, are the Rams going to get in trouble for win now? Like, are guys just going to be like, I'm not signing there. I'm not going to get traded away for a 6th round pick in 2025. But
yeah,
I think.
I understand. But I mean, at the same time, fans have a short memory too, where, you know, you want to live in the now and you want to win now and do the best you can, right? You're not thinking
100%.
about like a rebuild team that's like, well, we'll be there in a few years, you know. We'll get there, you know, in 3 to 4 years we'll be competitive. Like the Detroit Red Wings, like they're building up to something with Yzerman, but you know, fans want to see action now. Like, why am I paying to see a losing team, right? And Edmonton has a little bit of history of the team being in a decade of darkness. So with that in mind, and with knowing that, you know, Tampa Bay can do whatever they want with the cap, as can Vegas, what are some of the possible pickups that Vegas may go for? Is it going to be a Tarasenko out of St. Louis? Is it going to be an Evander Kane, who I feel is kind of done in San Jose? Is it going to be somebody like a backup goalie that we don't expect? Or maybe they pick up a Jake Allen from Montreal, who maybe Montreal may be sellers, right? And
I was actually going to mention him.
Okay.
Wow.
So what are your thoughts? Any predictions? Any bold takes? What are your thoughts?
Well, we were just talking about how this is a business. It's not family, right? Like you can't. Yeah. So, Brossois, I like you. Like, I appreciate you. But if they can go out and get a Jake Allen, or say even Varlamov, who's been hurt, and when he comes back, I mean, if the Islanders aren't competitive, they're last right now in their division. I mean, if they're not competitive when Varlamov gets back, they might just ship him out at the deadline, and I wouldn't blame him. I think there are a lot of options they could go. Tarasenko's an interesting one. His injuries do concern me. It's not like Eichel. Eichel wanted to get this surgery, and like the Buffalo was like, no, we don't want you to do that. We want you to do this. Basically kicking the can down the road. He wanted to just get this thing taken care of. It's not the same. But with, you know, you're dealing, like, Tarasenko's hurt all the time. That's my only concern. But I could absolutely see that. I could see Kane. Kane, the problem is the fan reaction, because there's so many people that do not like him. And I try to keep it, like, unless it's super, super bad, I try to keep it all about the player, because I cover sports. So I don't like to talk about the off stuff, off the field stuff. Because if they're, bottom line is, if they're eligible to play in the league, then we got to give them that. You know, if the league has deemed it eligible, then you can't hold that against them, you know? So it's a tough one there, because I mean, I feel like I'd get canceled for tweeting it out, but yeah, if Vegas could get Evander Kane, I'd be all for that. You know what I mean? I think it's okay to keep adding. What I don't like is, I understand this is it's a win now culture, but like, you know, the Keegan Colasars, like, you can't just also throw them in the trash like they're nothing. You know, I think they mean, you know, something in this hockey team. I liked the move to get Janmark. I thought, you know, he just had his first goal. I understand it took him a while to do that, but he's played some solid hockey. I don't have any issue with the way he's playing. I like the way Paul Cotter's playing. He just had his first 2 goals over the last like week or so. It kind of goes back to what I was saying with the young guys. It's going to be very interesting, because they can look at this in 2 different ways. They can look at this as, we could be active at the deadline because we can actually cash in on the way these guys were playing and the resume that they now have, all of that tape that they put out, that, hey, these guys, they play good hockey. I mean, the pro scouts are everywhere. There's probably pro scouts at Vegas games, I can assure you. So, you know, if you're talking about, you know, Vegas, say, you know, signing that 6-year deal with Zach Whitecloud, teams have to be like, well, they just did that. There's no way they can afford this guy and this guy and this guy. So, you know, and they see the way Chandler Stevenson's playing, and it's like, well, Jake Leschyshyn, or however, I always forget how to say his name. Leschyshyn, I think it is. He's playing good hockey, but it's like, how are they going to keep him when they've already kind of committed? Like, Chandler Stevenson isn't going anywhere. Nick Waugh isn't going anywhere. Is Carlson going anywhere? No, he signed like the 8-year deal, you know? So it gets to that point where it's like, yeah, they might have a market at the deadline from, like, for instance, a Canadians team that wants to get those prospects, you know, and they probably feel good because the last time they traded with Vegas, they ended up with Nick Suzuki, who I pretty much knew he was going to be really darn good, but that's the price you pay to get a guy like Pacioretty. So I had no issue with it. I mean, I root for him. I like him, but like I knew how it was going to be. So it'll be interesting, especially when Jack Eichel gets healthy, because they're going to, I mean, if you think about it, it's Eichel, it's Carlson, it's Stevenson, and Waugh. Those are your 4 centers for the foreseeable future, if you really think about it. I mean, Waugh's 25, Eichel's 25, Stevenson's 29, Carlson, I believe, is 28, 27. Yeah. So, I mean, like, why would you know what I mean? So, I think that they'd look at another winger, or a backup goalie, like you mentioned. But I definitely think because they have so much depth, I think there's a chance that they could unload at the deadline and get a veteran player like an Evander Kane, like a Tarasenko, and no one should be surprised if they do it.
So I have to just say, as soon as the question was thrown at you from my co-host, Evander Kane, I thought, this is going to be a hot take here because could you imagine? I'm laughing inside as you're mentioning it. Evander Kane, I have no idea how they'd fit that into the cap other than
Evander Kane in Vegas.
So in Vegas, the very place where they talk about the millions that he lost and his bankruptcy and all the stuff because of gambling addictions, possibly, or things along that long. I mean, I don't, a storyline. You know what? Hockey is entertainment, whether it's on the ice or off the ice, as we found out with Arizona. So everyone, just so you guys know, our guest today is Jake Ellenbogan. He is a content creator that covers all sports and entertainment. As a writer, podcaster, YouTuber, I don't know what this guy doesn't do. You can catch him writing on GameDay.com on hockey content. And that's why we got him here on Two Guys in Hockey Talk. So I have to ask him this question. Okay, listen, you place odds. What do you place the odds in Vegas making it into the cup? They don't have to win it, making it to the cup final.
I would say 6-1.
Ooh.
Pretty good. It's not 2-1. I wasn't doing anything like that, but yeah,
that's pretty good.
My question is, can they get through somebody like a Colorado? Like that, I think, is the big challenge, and they have before.
Yeah, I think they could.
I think last year that series was, if not deserving of a Western Conference final. I understand it was in the second round just because of the dynamic. But.
I mean, if we're gonna have the Canadians in, then it should have just been the freaking Stanley Cup.
Actually,
I hear you though. I'm not salty about it, but I hear you.
Oh man, that's crazy. Well, we're gonna have to get ready to wrap up. We always joke that we should have called this Two Guys in Overtime as opposed to Hockey Talk. But hey, any last thoughts you want to throw out our way here?
Yeah, I just want people to respect Nick Waugh a little bit more and keep your eye on Dawson Mercer. I think he's gonna win Rookie of the Year this year. I think he is on a path, and here's the thing. Is Jack Hughes. I was at the game when he got hurt. He has not been back since. He'll probably be back at the end of the month, if not early December. Dawson Mercer stepped up as that guy. Now, he's on the second line, as I mentioned earlier, with Bratt and Janssen, but he is leading that line. And, just seeing him as a facilitator and just being so unselfish, I think that's the thing that makes that line so great. He's stepped up. I mean, he's 20 years old, I believe, even maybe 19. He can't drink legally. Well, all I know is that. So this guy is out there and he's just skating around everyone and he's off to a great start. So, I mean, obviously it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. And I expect him to have a really good rest of the season, but watch out. He's going to be special. I think he'll be better than Jack Hughes and Hischier personally. And we'll see about Luke Hughes, who was still at Michigan, but I feel really good about him. I want Waugh to get some more respect and keep an eye on that second line. I remember back when I was like kind of a casual, like kind of getting back into it a little bit, but still a casual fan. And now I get it. I was like, wait, if Edmonton has potentially the 2 best players in the league in Draisaitl and McDavid, why do they not play on the same line? And then they started playing on the same line at the beginning of the year. But now as I've learned hockey more, I totally understand why they don't play on the same line, because to have those 2 players across 2 different lines to have McDavid and Hyman and Pugliari on the first one, and then to just after that, after you've just you've had it, you're like, oh my God, Draisaitl's on the line, and you have Yamamoto, who's another scrappy guy, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. So, just definitely keep an eye on that second line. They're not getting talked about enough. Obviously, Draisaitl is, but Nugent-Hopkins is so underrated, and Yamamoto is just a guy you don't want to see because he's just absolutely filthy, and he doesn't care. He literally is a battering ram, and whatever you want to call him, a loose cannon, whatever. So those are the three, and they all come from my three favorites. I get it, but more respect. Mercer as Rookie of the Year, and that second line of Edmonton. Those are my final thoughts.
I think that if Dawson Mercer wins Calder, his teammates are going to find a way to get him a drink that's, even though he's underage.
They'll have to sneak it, man.
Oh, man, that's absolutely crazy. Pavel, any final thoughts before we go?
Nope, just thanks to Jake for coming on the show. We appreciate it. Make sure to plug in and follow his Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, whatever else social media platforms have. Read his articles. We love to post some of your stuff. Jake, feel free to share it on our page. We love people to check out your writing, even about the Rams. If people want to read that, we know we have some big football fans, American football. The Europeans over there in my country would be very angry if I called it football. But we appreciate you being on the show and actually knowing something about hockey, unlike Evan, and being able to actually have a good mustache, because Evan can't do anything at all.
I think it's the first time I've been complimented on my mustache, so I'll take it.
Well, we know that my co-host here, that's all he can do is just grow a beard, because we know he knows absolutely nothing about hockey. But I want to say thank you, Jake, for joining us here today. Man, it's been a blast. I love hearing some of the stuff you got. Love to have you back sometime down the road. And definitely follow Jake. Guys, you can make sure you check our content out on our Facebook page. You can pull up our YouTube. We just started posting up into our YouTube now last week as well to get our stuff up there. But continue to check out our Facebook Live show every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Again, in the meantime and in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Stay safe, everyone.
Cheers, guys.
Finds Brodzinski. One-timer right on by Gettinger. Rebound, Greco jamming away. They score. No, it's waved off. The red light went on. The horn sounded.